Hello and welcome to another episode of Making It Happen. I'm your host, Amanda Kaufman, and I am so happy to be changing up the context of our video for today, just for fun. I wanted to walk, I had some spare time, and I thought, let's just take this little show on the road, shall we? I'm so lucky. I have this beautiful open space, and it's 2 minutes from my office, which is in that building right there. How cool is that? And I'm definitely underutilizing it. So maybe I need to remember the context of my office includes a really nice, very easy walking trail that I can take it outside and have some fun. And especially when you live in Texas and it is, the winter holidays and I'm not wearing long sleeves. All right, so today I wanted to talk to you about context and how important context is with making things happen. And in particular, we're talking about managing the tasks that you need to complete and deciding what you're going to focus your energy on. When I first started this journey of focusing on productivity and personal performance, I was a mess. I was burnt out. I was tired beyond belief. I worked regularly until after midnight, and then I got up and had myself in the office by 7 a.m. I was sleep deprived and naturally pretty grumpy. I felt that I had to work really hard in order to be really good at my job, because that was really important to me. I came from a place that was so far away, and I felt like very few people I was working with could understand my background and my upbringing, so I felt like I had a lot to prove in order to be able to play. And that behavior over time ended up causing me to gain a ton of weight, which when I looked in the mirror, I felt terrible. I felt really out of control. I felt really ashamed, actually, of it, And I got a lovely reminder twice a week as I sat in my airport seat and I put the seatbelt on, and I was getting less and less slack in the seatbelt. And I was noticing this, and I was thinking, darn it, airline carrier, you're shortening the seat belts. But of course, that's not true. I was gaining and gaining. And my mood was terrible. I didn't have a very high opinion of myself. And I had so much left to do. And it was crushing. And I really hated the word overwhelm because that sounded like admitting defeat. And so I let it go. And I just kept on just like pushing myself to stay up later, get up earlier, push. And then what ended up happening was on the weekends, I couldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't get out of bed, because I was so exhausted from working like that, I had to tap out. And let me tell you something, when you are driven to achieve and you feel that you have to tap out, not because you choose that space and that abundance, but because you can't physically continue, it's not a pleasant place to be. I felt really crushed. And of course, whenever any tiny thing came up at work, and looking back, I say it's tiny, the criticisms that I would receive, or the feedback, even if it was gentle, I couldn't take it very well. I wasn't equipped because I was so drained and so exhausted. Why am I bringing all of this up? Because first, I had to recover from being in such a state. And then I kind of got to this place where I said, well, I still really want to achieve. How do I do that? And so I started reading, and I came across, I had actually been exposed a little bit to the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. I went and actually read the book. I read The Happiness Project. I read David Allen's Getting Things Done. I started reading a lot of books that were all about how do you perform better with less input. See, when I was in college, I was a chemical engineering student. So I know a thing or two about process design. And the name of the game in chemical engineering is transformation of matter and doing it efficiently. We spent a lot of time learning how efficiency works. So I guess it was really natural that my brain would go to, well, the thing to do if I want to transform my life is to find more efficient ways of living it. So today I want to share with you one of the absolute top strategies that changed everything from an efficiency standpoint in my productive life. And that is to stop using priorities as my deciding factor on what I'm going to focus on in my task list. What? I mean, we get told or trained that you have a task list and then you put the most important things at the top of the task list, and then you put the next most important thing and the next most important thing, so that the least important things end up at the bottom. Now, I could go on for days about what's wrong with that strategy, but what ended up happening for me was I noticed that when it came to something my boss asked me to do, it was always at the very top, which, bosses like that. But little things like doing the paperwork for my green card, or working on my physical health, or spending time with my husband, those things tended to not make the priority cut. And I'll do another whole video about rebalancing on that. But it just sort of felt like everything was always urgent, everything was always really important. And more than that, I had so much stress by the time it came to go to bed that I tried to alleviate the stress by doing more and responding to more of those urgent, important emails, by pushing just a little bit harder to get a couple more things on that awful task list done. So what do? Here's the secret. Are you ready? Go in your task list and look at the context that's required for you to complete the tasks. So for example, let's say you've got a few phone calls to make. Group the phone calls together and then set a time that you're going to make phone calls. If you've got several tasks requiring email is just terrible from a productivity tackling standpoint. But if email has dedicated time that you deal with emails, you are going to see a shift in the efficiency with which you get things done. Another context, the milk. So if you need to go buy some milk, the context for doing that is probably on the drive home from work, when you're going past a grocery store. The time to worry about milk is not when you're in a meeting and in a conference room and there's nothing you can do about the milk. Okay? Similarly, you can look at things like weekend time, right? I decided a long time ago that weekend time was my family's time and my husband's time and my time, not my company's time, not my business's time. And so the context of when I'm somewhere and what resources are available to me largely drive the things that I do. Now, there's other strategies that I would recommend you put on top of this to really up your productivity game. But if you're walking around with a list of 50, 100 things that you're never really getting to, and you find that some things that are really important to you keep bumping to the bottom of that list, your first efficiency play, and the first thing that I would recommend that you do is that you take a minute and you think about what are the different contexts that I have available to me meaning the resources available. Do I need the internet? Do I need my phone? Do I want, is it a certain time of the day, right? And start to group your tasks according to where you happen to be and what resources you happen to have available. All right? So that's the context setting game, bringing it kind of back to my experience by setting those windows that I was going to complete certain tasks of certain types. It changed the game. It changed the game because instead of worrying about completing email at 11 p.m., I was worrying about getting some sleep. And when I was able to get some sleep, then I was more effective in the time I did spend in the email. You see how this can work? When I was on an airplane, rant moment. So I got suckered into the internet on the plane thing, and don't do that. If you have access to internet on the airplane, all it's going to do is tick you off. It's slow. It doesn't work really well. So unless there's something super compelling that you must do in the air that requires the internet, then by all means. But if you are looking at the plane as time to get online-based work done, that's more than chatting with somebody and sending little snippets of data, dude, think about how you could use that airplane time a little better, right? Now, I mean, that's just for example, but it was a bit of a rant. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with you walking around today. I know this is a little longer than usual, but I hope that you take this and put it into action. Like, go ahead and just look at that task list, break things up, and go, okay, phone calls now, email now, spreadsheet work now, teamwork now, right? And block according to the context, not according to what feels urgent in the moment. Because if you let your emotions run your productivity, you are not going to have a lot of fun, and you're not going to be able to create the space, because guess what? More urgent tasks are going to just keep popping up, and you'll get crushed if you keep trying to push yourself to stay up later, to get up earlier, to just expect more of yourself. It's time to change the game. It's time to get strategic. So the first strategy I want you to implement with that task list is context setting. Cool. I hope this really helped, and I really enjoyed this walk with you. I hope you have a really great week. Bye.